All right, good evening, everybody. Being 6:30, I'd like to call the meeting of the Community Preservation Committee to order. Just a kind of couple housekeeping items at the start. This is a Zoom only meeting, so everyone is participating virtually. I would, in order to make the process work well for everyone, if I could ask everyone to be muted when you're not speaking or presenting, that will lessen the chances of feedback or anything like that complicating matters for us. If we could begin the meeting with a roll call of members, just to confirm that we do indeed have a quorum, although I believe we do. Peter, can you handle that for us?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
Just trying to pull up the group. Well, first of all, Chairman Backey,
Present.
Member DeJesus. I see Lloyd on there. We'll skip that for now. Member Shea,
Present.
Member Tenzar, okay.
He's waving present, but if you could,
Okay.
members could unmute and just confirm your presence for the record.
Present.
Yeah, sorry, just because we have it recorded too. Okay. Member Baez Rose.
Present.
And Member DeJesus again. I know I see Lloyd's out of phone. Okay, perfect.
All right. This meeting is about the determination of eligibility. This is not the meeting where we hear elaborate presentations about each of the projects, nor will the board be passing any judgment on the merits of the projects. The consideration this evening is merely whether they are eligible under the rules and requirements of the Community Preservation Act for consideration. It's basically we do a two-stage process that's basically a courtesy to ensure that the applicants who are putting the effort into full applications are doing so for projects that are indeed eligible. I think we have, I'm sorry.
I said, Chairman Backey, this is Member LaLasher. I just wanted to mark it as present.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep, thank you for that. Sorry, I just saw Matt, so I wasn't sure.
You want to just call all the member names, Peter, and I think even the ones we think are not present, just to make sure we don't have anyone else mislabeled or anything.
Yes. Sorry, I just have to pull out the actual list for myself. Sorry, one sec, we're almost there. So we have two people in the waiting room. Contact list. Okay, sorry about that. I am not used to doing this on a Mac compared to work. Okay. Do you want me to start from the top or just the ones that we haven't heard from?
Just the folks you haven't called yet.
Okay. Member Butenhuis, Member LaLatcher, who just confirmed, Member Rourke, and Member De Pizza.
Great. Thank you.
Yep, sorry about that.
That's okay. Thank you. The one other order of business before we get into the eligibility applications is the meeting minutes from the last meeting of the committee, which took place on May 30th. Do we have any questions or comments about those meeting minutes? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
I make the motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, so we have a fairly long list of applications to go through this evening, and I think for the most part, it should be a fairly efficient process because folks have clearly have given some good thought, and their applications largely appear to be eligible for this program. What we would, I think, like to do, if no one has any specific concerns about it, is rather than hearing presentations at this time, we will go through the eligibility applications one at a time. And I will ask the members of the committee whether they have any questions that need clarification. And if they do, then we will ask the representatives for or the proponents for those particular projects to address the questions of the members. If there are no questions and they are able to be deemed eligible efficiently, I think we can save everyone a little bit of time by just doing so rather than hearing presentations this evening. And there will be an opportunity for all of the projects that do submit full applications to present the full merits of their applications at an upcoming meeting this fall. So the first project we have this evening is eligibility application for the Wanalancet Mills. An application has been submitted by Farley White Management Company to restore the 210-foot smokestack on the Wanalancet Mill building at 650 Suffolk Street. They are seeking $96,500 for the project, and they are seeking an eligibility determination this evening. So do any of the members have any questions about this application?
I don't have any questions, but I do feel like it's important to note, because this came up in a previous allocation round, that folks looking for historic.
Can you start over?
Historic preservation funds have to know that if they accept these funds. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead and restart the sentence about
Sorry.
historic preservation applications.
I'm going to shut my camera off because sometimes that helps.
Okay, great.
So that anybody who is seeking historic preservation funds needs to understand that by accepting those funds, you're accepting a historic preservation restriction on the entirety of your property. So in the case of the smokestack, if they accept the funds to fix the smokestack, it's going to impact the whole property. And I just think it's important that we kind of remind people of that in advance of full applications moving forward.
No, that's very, very helpful. Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments about this application? Member Tenzo?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just thought it was interesting that they called this one of Lowell's industrial redwoods. Kind of cool. I thought it was a neat application.
Great. All right. Hearing no other questions, do we have a motion regarding the eligibility of this applicant?
I'll make the motion that it's eligible.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Chairman Backey,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baez-Rose,
Yes.
Member DeJesus,
Yes.
Member Shea,
Yes.
Member LaLatcher,
Yes.
and Member Tenzar.
Yes.
All right. Well, good. We look forward to your application. The next one we have this evening is 573 to 579 Lawrence Street. An application has been submitted by Manny Cavallero to replace the windows in the historic building at 573, 579 Lawrence Street. The applicant is seeking $59,000 for the project, and they are currently seeking an eligibility determination. Do we have any questions or comments from the members about this applicant? Hearing none, do we have a motion regarding its eligibility?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? We have a roll call vote on this one, please.
Chairman Backey,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baez Rose,
Yes.
Member DeJesus,
Yes.
Member Shea,
Yes.
Member LaLatcher,
Yes.
and Member Tenzar.
Yes.
Thank you. Look forward to your application as well. Next, we have 635 Middlesex Street. An application has been submitted by RG Realty LLC for the restoration and rehabilitation of the historic building at 635 Middlesex Street. They are seeking $261,000 for the project. They are also currently seeking an eligibility determination. We have any questions or comments from the board?
This project was previously funded, so I would say we consider it eligible.
Right.
Either that or we made a mistake before, right? So let's double down. We have a motion on this one?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Chairman Backey,
Yes?
Vice Chair Baez Rose,
Yes.
Member DeJesus,
Yes.
Member Shea,
Yes.
Member LaLatcher,
Yes.
Member Tenzar.
Yes.
Good. Again, we look forward to your application as well. Next, we have 45 Middle Street. An application has been submitted by GDG Properties LLC to preserve the existing historic structure at 45 Middle Street and 100 Merrimack Street. They are requesting $110,000, and the applicant is seeking an eligibility determination. We have questions from the members on this one.
I do have a question about this project.
Let me just quickly before you ask, do we have a representative
guess
here?
I'm not clear on what.
Yes, this is David Goloski. I'm here with my wife, Gina. We're the owners of the building.
Okay, great. Thank you. Go ahead, Member Baez Rose.
Is it the alleyway that's being where's the column going and where's the slab? I was a little confused with the.
It's a fascinating structure. So 45 Middle Street is a historic building, the Hokum Hosford building. And then 100 Merrimack, a lot of people know, is kind of the front where everybody enters to the office building that all of this is a part of. And actually next to 100 Merrimack, there's like 92 Merrimack. And those three structures, when you're inside, like, and walking around the building, you don't even know you're moving from one structure to the other on the second, third, and fourth floor, because they're connected over the alleyway. And they're also connected under the alleyway. Like you can walk from Merrimack to Middle Street through a room that's under the alleyway. So there's a slab that really is the basis of the alleyway. Like if you looked at the asphalt and peeled it up, there's a concrete slab that's there. And it's really old, and we learned it's only 4 inches thick. It was never designed for vehicular traffic. And it's something that we learned, through investigating this leak and some of the problems that we've had. And so it's really that slab that needs to be repaired. And the leakage that went on deteriorated the slab, but it also affected, there's a hanger on a joist that's in there. And so the engineer has recommended putting a column underneath that beam that supports the slab.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. Sure. And so I guess I do have a question on eligibility, given that the column would be interior. I didn't think that we did that kind of stuff. So I am a little uncertain about eligibility given that. Yeah,
the majority of the majority is really the slab. The majority, I think my submittal had the proposal from the contractor that we're talking with to do this, and he has the breakdown. Majority of the costs are the rehabilitation of the slab that forms the basis of the alleyway.
And I have some uncertainty about whether that's an eligible use of these funds either, actually. The way the board has interpreted the historic preservation provisions in the past, it has been focused on the exterior components that are visible and present on buildings and structures. And the logic behind that is not ignoring what we all recognize, which is that there are non-visible components of buildings that are key to their physical preservation, but that the purpose of the community preservation funding in general is for the preservation and enhancement of assets to the community itself, and the historic preservation component of that are basically things that are considered landmarks or of historic significance, and that the investment is visible to the community that is paying for it. So we have not in the past funded historic projects that were either site, landscape, or anything that's simply interior to buildings.
So the structure or the integrity of the structure of the building doesn't matter?
No, I'm not saying it didn't matter. In fact, that was how I conditioned my comments to you from the very beginning, that it's the nature of the purpose of this funding. It is not an observation as to whether you are doing something that is good for the building. That's not the question. The question is the purpose of this funding. And this funding is collected from all of the taxpayers of the community of Lowell. And so the general impression in this community and in other communities in the state is that the historic preservation component of these funds should be used on things that is, again, visible to the community that is paying for them. I'm not saying it's ineligible, but I do think it's tenuous, is my perspective on this one. And I think there's another layer that, it will also be, there'll be some question about how it will be competitive relative to other applicants down the road if it is deemed eligible by the board this evening.
Okay.
I'm curious what my fellow members feel and think about this one as well. Member Tenzer?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just looking at this and it's being, within the historic boundaries, according to what the historic board administrator indicated, and that it's looking to preserve the structure of the building. I hear what you're saying, that we don't see it, but if you don't preserve the structure, you're not going to see it in the long term. So I probably would err on the side of probably pushing it forward, but I would agree with your comments that it'll be a harder process when we determine who is awarded funds.
Just a question. Do you have a rubric or something that you publish to evaluate these?
The eligibility questions are actually based on the law itself. Mm-hmm. So it's not something we publish. It's literally what the law says. The competitive or comparative merits, they're really the committee endorses a community preservation plan, and the plan itself describes the priorities that the community has for the use of these funds, and the projects are weighed against one another on the basis of the priorities that are established in the community preservation plan, which is published on the website and publicly available.
Yeah, one of the challenges that we faced is the earlier aspect of this project, because we had to at first solve the water intrusion problem. And a key part of that water intrusion problem was a surface drain in the alleyway next to the slab. And it turned out, working with the city and with all of our engineers, spending a lot of money on them, that there really wasn't a surface drain going to the stormwater of the city. It was simply a dry well. Like the water from our building and the neighboring buildings just went into this dry well. And I guess the hope was that it just seeped down into the earth. But over the years, it found its way into our building. And so we had to undertake designing and replacing the surface drain. And interestingly, that alleyway is private. So because I own both sides, it goes to the center line of the alleyway. We own the whole alleyway, but my neighbors only go halfway across. And the surface drain, that was the problem. The other neighbors had no issues with it. And in working with the city, we found a resolution to take this water in the new surface drain and put it to another surface drain 75 feet away. That
I appreciate this, but is this
in
how
the,
is this
well,
relevant to the
in the end,
question before us this
I'll
evening?
get to the final point.
Okay.
In the end, we paid an awful lot of money, and we don't even have it on our property for this surface drain. And so the city couldn't cooperate. No one could cooperate. And so we're trying through this to find a way for the city to participate in this project. And that's what we're shooting for.
Well, I appreciate that. Do we have other questions or comments from the board members on this one?
Mr. Chairman, this is Member LaLasher.
Yep.
I feel there's enough here that eligibility is close enough that it would be something we could further investigate. But I share similar comments and concerns as to, it's the competitive nature of this in this specific round. But being the comments that came from the historic board chairman, I think there's enough here that there would be eligibility in my opinion.
Okay. Do you want to turn that into the form of a motion?
Yes, I would be comfortable making the motion to allow for eligibility for this one.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, can we have a roll call, please?
Chairman Backey,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baez-Rose,
Yes.
Member DeJesus,
Yes.
Member Shea,
I'm sorry. I said yes, thank you.
okay, no worries. Member LaLatcher
Yes.
and Member Tenzar.
Yes.
Sorry.
I do want to take the opportunity to also share with this applicant and actually many others that in addition to this program and the grant funding that's awarded through this program, there is funding for historic preservation projects available through the Lowell Development and Finance Corporation. And I would strongly encourage, frankly, all of the applicants that are considering this pot, if they haven't already, to also speak with the Lowell Development and Finance Corporation to see if that might be a useful path to some additional funding for your projects. I think the total amount that is being requested across all of the applications before us is well in excess of the money we have available. So being able to consider that other source may be helpful to many of the applicants as well. And I'm sure the city staff can help connect you with the LDFC if you don't have a way of getting to them yourself. Next up this evening is an application from 246.1 Market Street. An application has been submitted by Novus Properties LLC for the restoration of the historic turbine building at 246.1 Market Street. They are requesting $812,428. The applicant is currently seeking an eligibility determination. Do we have any questions from the board on this one? Hearing none, do we have a motion with respect to this one?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Seconded by, I guess, Member Shea this time. Any further discussion? Could we have a roll call, please?
Chairman Backey,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baez-Rose,
Yes.
Member DeJesus,
Yes.
Member Shea,
Yes.
Member LaLatcher,
Yes.
and Member Tenzar.
Yes.
Thank you. Next up is Mass Mills 4. An application has been submitted by Mullins Management Company to restore the historic boiler building and main power building at 169.1 and 169.2 Bridge Street. The applicant is seeking $1.5 million of CPA funding. and they are seeking an eligibility determination. Do we have any questions from the board on this project? Do we have a motion? Oh, is that a question or a motion?
Question?
Either way, Member Tenzo.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. On number 6, I have a note. Have DPD explain comment number 6. Didn't understand it.
I don't know what comment number 6 is.
You guys sent out a memorandum, project summary, comments, dated September 19th, 2024.
Says, as long as any expenditures related to the housing portion are used only toward the affordability restricted units, DPD staff believe the proposal is eligible for community housing funds. Just for
Oh,
clarification to folks, the Community Preservation Act has 3 different pots of funding that we are, actually we have 4 different pots of funding, 3 of which we are required to spend or allocate a minimum of 10% of our funds every year to. One of those being historic preservation, which is the bulk of the applications we have this year, one being open space preservation, and the third being community housing. This project is, I think, the first one this evening that is seeking an eligibility determination under 2 different categories. They are seeking to be deemed eligible for historic preservation as well as community housing. So with that context, if you maybe could explain the comment.
yeah, I get where this is coming from now. So the applicant wrote in their application that they were going to pursue a funding that was sort of 80-20. So 80% market, 20% affordable, or it might be the flip of that. But either way, the comment is basically saying that if the CPC does choose to put any funding in the affordable housing, that it has to go only to those particular units. It would have to just cover costs for construction of those particular units and not be thrown at the larger project and help build out essentially the market rate unit. So we would have to restrict those funds, which the CPC can do, the city does with other funding. We can be specific to saying that our funds can only be used for certain units that are affordability restricted. So that's just calling that out, that not all of the units in this proposal are eligible under the affordable housing kind of umbrella.
That makes sense, but how do you do it? I mean, you have a project that says, I don't know how many units, but a bunch of units. And how do you make sure it just goes to certain affordable housing units?
I think it's typically a math exercise. There's
Okay.
This project has a $60 million budget.
Okay. All right. Now I'm getting it. All right. Thank you.
And they would be required to sort of have affordable restrictions on those units. And they do have to report on that information sort of annually as a part of some of the other funding. So there are ways to ensure that the restriction does live with units and meets the term that this group would put in place.
Thank you.
Okay. Question is very helpful. Any further questions or discussion on this? Do we have a motion regarding its eligibility?
Yeah, I'd make a motion for it to be eligible.
Under both categories?
Good question. Yeah, it's within the historic zone. It's historic landmarks. So yes, please.
Okay. And I assume your second is comfortable with that as well? Member Baez-Rose?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion on the motion?
Yes. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
If we can, yes. Then I guess we're ready for a roll call.
Chairman Becky,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baez-Rose,
Yes.
Member DeJesus,
Yes.
Member Shea,
Yes.
Member LaLatcher,
Yes.
Member Tenzar.
Yes.
All right. Our next application is 138 Cross Street. An application has been submitted by the Coalition for a Better Acre to construct 9 affordable homeownership housing units. The applicant is seeking $500,000 of CPA funding, and they are seeking an eligibility determination. Do we have any questions from the members on this one? Hearing none. We do have one. Member Tenzar?
Just quickly, it looks like what they're saying is they're requesting 500. They've got additional funding of 4.7 million, and they're building just 9 units. Is that a typo? Because it sounds like each unit's going to be 570,000 each unit.
That is not a typo.
Holy crap! Wow. Okay. Thank you. Wow.
I would say that's pretty on brand for a subsidized housing development per unit cost, actually. That's not, that doesn't blow my hair back. It's pretty standard numbers.
Okay.
For better or worse, I've seen double that.
Yikes. All right.
Any other questions from the members? Do we have a motion on this one?
I'll make the motion.
And a second?
I'll second it.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? And this one, just for clarity, is only seeking to be deemed eligible for under the community housing category. So I guess, can we have a roll call, please?
Chairman Backey,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baez-Rose,
Yes.
Member DeJesus,
Yes.
Member Shea,
Yes.
Member LaLatcher,
Yes.
and Member Tenzar.
Yes.
All right, great. All right, our next project is 32 Bridge Street. An application has been submitted by the E. Gibson Trust, Tanya Perrin and Nicholas Saris, for repairs to the historic building at 32 Bridge Street. The applicant is seeking $100,000 for the project, and they are seeking an eligibility determination this evening. And I believe, like one of the prior ones, this applicant is seeking an eligibility determination under 2 different categories, both historic preservation and community housing. Do we have any questions from board members on this one?
Sorry, I do have a question. For the community housing component, just wanted to confirm that the plan is not just to, that you're committing to subsidize affordable housing, or that there will be definitely affordable housing component to it.
So this is
Hi. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry,
Steve,
Tanya.
right here. Go ahead. You go.
I was just going to say that Nick and Tanya had asked me to speak on this. So when the application was submitted, I think the authors were not aware about the subsidized portion and the deed restriction portion of the community housing side of CPA. So the project is not subsidized by any state or federal funds. It's purely a market rate project. So I think we're only seeking eligibility at this point under the historic preservation category.
Good to hear. That makes more sense. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
With that clarification, do we have a motion on this one?
I'll make a motion for eligibility.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. And any further discussion? I guess, can we have a roll call on this one, please?
Yep. Chairman Backey,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baez-Rose,
Yes.
Member DeJesus,
Yes.
Member Shea,
Yes.
Member LaLatcher, I just had to let Matt back in, so
He's here. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Makes sense. And
Switch
member
computers.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Did we get everybody there? Okay.
Yeah, I heard Dan at the end.
All right. Our next one is the St. Anne's building. An application has been submitted by St. Anne's Episcopal Church to restore the 3 historic buildings on the St. Anne's campus. The applicant is seeking $800,000 for the project, and they are seeking an eligibility determination. Do we have any questions from the members on this one? All right. Hearing none, do we have a motion on this one?
Make a motion for eligibility.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, can we have a roll call on this one then, please?
Chairman Vacchi,
Yes?
Vice Chair Baez-Rose,
Yes.
Member DeJesus,
Yes.
Member Shea,
Yes.
Member LaLatcher,
Yes.
and Member Tenzar.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right, our next one is 484 Merrimack Street. An application has been submitted by New Royal LLC to restore the historic building at 484 Merrimack Street. The applicant is seeking $350,000 of CPA funding, and they are seeking an eligibility determination this evening. Do we have any questions regarding this project? Member Tenzar?
Yeah, there's a comment number 2. It says something is listed on the ADD. Not sure what that is. Per the City Historical Board Administrator, the subject property is listed on the ADD.
We have someone from the city, author of the memo, who could clarify that for us.
I think this one was assigned to Dylan, but let me pull up the comment memo and see if I can make sense of it.
While you're doing that, it does clarify from the Historic Board Administrator that the building is listed on the National and State Registers of Historic Places through its inclusion in the Lowell National Historical Park and Preservation District and the Downtown Lowell Historic District. It's possible that the ADD is literally the word add, that they forgot to add some text to their memo, but
Yeah, I think that might be the case here.
all right.
Oh, that's good. That's funny. All right.
I'll make a motion. I think this is obviously eligible under historic preservation.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Chairman Vacchi,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baez-Rose,
Yes.
Member DeJesus,
Yes.
Member Shea,
Yes.
Member LaLatcher, and Member Tenzar.
Yes.
Okay. Our next applicant is Suffolk Place. An application has been submitted by Suffolk Place LLC to construct 33 affordable home ownership housing units at 408 Suffolk Street. The applicant is seeking $300,000 of CPA funding, and they are seeking an eligibility determination this evening. Do we have any questions regarding this applicant or for this applicant? Member Tenzar, is that a question?
Yes. It looks like it says they previously received money. Can they come to the well multiple times?
They can come to the well as many times as they want. That doesn't force
Okay.
the board, just because there's a couple, I think there's actually 3 applications that are in our pool this evening that have previously received funding. The award of funding in the past is neither prejudice nor priority for funding in the future. Would be a new determination against the other applicants this year.
Okay.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yep, Member Shea?
A question to Steve. Steve, when do you expect to start construction over there?
Well, we've submitted a revised application to Mass Housing, and they plan to put us on their board agenda for the October meeting, at the end of October. If we're fortunate enough, we'll close in November of this year and commence construction, unfortunately, during winter conditions, but that's the plan.
Well, I just think it's a tremendous plan, and I want to commend you for the Acre Crossing development. It's all good stuff over there, considering since I grew up down the street, I'm familiar with that area, but thanks for everything, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it.
Any further questions?
I'll just echo my earlier comments. Since we gave them money, we definitely know they're eligible. So I'll make a motion to determine them eligible again.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? I guess a roll call on this one, please.
Chairman Backey,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baez Rose,
Yes.
Member DeJesus,
Yes.
Member Shea,
Yes.
Member LaLatcher,
Yes.
and Member Tenzar.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Next one is the East End Club. An application has been submitted by residents at West 4th LLC to construct 2 affordable housing units at 15 West 4th Street. The applicant is seeking $100,000 of CPA funding, and they are seeking an eligibility determination this evening. Do we have any questions regarding this application? Hearing none, do we have a motion from the board?
I'll make a motion for eligibility.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Any further discussion? Can we have a roll call on this one, please?
Chairman Backey,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baez Rose,
Yes.
Member DeJesus,
Yes.
Member Shea,
Yes.
Member LaLatcher,
Yes.
and Member Tenzar.
Yes.
And that concludes the eligibility application portion of this evening's agenda. Thank you for an efficient process this evening. We do have another order of business, which is the Community Preservation Coalition dues. The Community Preservation Coalition is a statewide organization that provides technical assistance and outreach and advocacy on behalf of local community preservation committees. The Lowell CPC will vote on whether to appropriate a portion of our CPA funds for member dues with the coalition, as we have done in the past. Do we have any discussion on this matter?
Being this my first time on the board, I would ask member Chairman Backey, what are the dues?
My recollection is it's a couple $1,000s, but I actually don't know off the top of my head. What does Peter, do you know? Do you have that information before you?
I think that's right. We got something in the mail. It might have been like $2,000 or $3,000.
I think it's prorated based on the size of the CPA funds that are available to each community, or proportional rather. Member Tenzar?
Have we used this technical assistance in the past?
We actually used it rather substantially when we were first standing up the program. They provided an extensive amount of help in helping us understand how to structure the program, how to write our applications, how to prepare our initial plan. They have also provided city staff with some technical assistance on individual applications pretty consistently year to year. How many hours of that time, I don't know. And I don't know how that compares to your billing rate, but you know.
If I could, I would just say that I do think that being a dues paying member does allow the staff to be able to pick up the phone and ask the questions when we need to in order to get clarification. So to me, it is a valuable sort of resource, and is worth the investment of the dues.
I think the
Also,
other
Mr.
reason.
Chairman, also,
Yep.
don't they, I think they effectively lobby at the State House. They have a great amount of respect up there. That's my understanding. Maybe I'm overstating it, but I think I'm probably more right than wrong.
No, I was actually about to say something
Motion
very similar.
Makes sense. Thank you.
They do pretty substantial advocacy work with the legislature, and in several recent years since we've had a program in Lowell, their advocacy work has actually certainly contributed to the state legislature appropriating more funding for the CPA program than just the collections of the surcharges at the registries of deeds. And that, of course, translates to a portion of that funds coming back to Lowell. So I pretty much, it may be a number of years of those couple $1,000s a year before we've spent more on them than they've returned to us through their advocacy work with the legislature.
I move approval, Mr. Chairman.
All right, do we have a second?
Second that.
Any further discussion? Do we need a roll call on this? Or guess doesn't hurt.
Yeah, why not? Chairman Backey,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baez-Rose,
Yes.
Member DeJesus,
Yes.
Member Shea,
Yes.
Member LaLatcher,
Yes.
and Member Tenzar.
Yes.
All right. I believe the only other business we have this evening is the approval of the 2025 meeting schedule, and we have to at least approve the September meetings since we're holding it. But oh, this is 2025. Okay, so this would be starting in January. We have any? Has everyone had a chance to see the schedule? I think it was emailed out a while ago. Actually, it was quite a while ago. But it just for the members who are newer, you'll note that we don't meet consistently through the year. The meeting schedule is really tied to the annual cycle of applications because that's really the primary business of the committee. So the way that typically works, at this time of the year, we're hearing these eligibility applications, and the eligible applicants are given then the opportunity to submit full applications. We use our fall meetings to hear presentations and answer any questions we have or have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicants for all those projects. And then we use typically the January meeting or meetings, depending how many are needed, to craft our recommendations for how to allocate the funding that's available to the projects that have been presented to us. Those are then submitted to the City Council, and the City Council makes the final determination of appropriating the funds. We hold a public hearing every year at the beginning of the spring, and then we keep a meeting on the books, sort of as just in case we have some extra business, and to authorize the funding levels that need to be fed into the city budget every year in May. And then that's the cycle from there. And we initially had a whole bunch of other meetings on the calendar that we didn't find any value in. So we now post a schedule that doesn't include additional meetings, but we can always hold one if we need one. So basically we'll have a series of meetings in the winter, a couple of meetings in the spring, and then a series of meetings in the fall.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Chairman.
All right. And I think we probably just need a voice vote to approve the meeting schedule. So do we have a motion to approve the meeting schedule?
I'll make the motion.
And do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Go forth and publish. Any other comments from, well, we're not going to wait for comments from the planning board members, but any comments from the CPC members?
I do have one question that I've been remiss in asking, and maybe it's something that can be solved outside of the meeting structure, but what do we have that's been retained from previous years from not having spent on our 10% in the different areas? Have we withheld for either historic preservation, open space, or any of those subjects? Have we withheld that 10%? And if so, what is being held currently in those pools?
Spent it all down.
Well,
But I
no, I think we did put something into reserves in one category, I believe, last year, didn't we?
Could we request a report?
Yeah, I
Maybe
think
that's the easiest way
that
to do
would
it.
be really helpful if you could
Yep.
just request a report.
That'd be great. If I don't know if we can do that in the form of a motion, but if we could request.
Sure, why don't you make a motion?
Oh, great.
I'll make it,
I'll
that'll
make
be on the
a-
record that way.
Great. I'll make the motion to request a report for the remaining fund, the remaining amounts that are in the current fund and the different categories that those might be in.
And
Yeah,
do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
All right. Voice vote on that, I think. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion carries. We'll look forward to that report. I think the other report that would be useful, I know in the first year of the program, we authorized or recommended, and the city council authorized borrowing against future CPA revenues for a couple of larger projects. It would be useful just to get an update on where that stands as well, whether we've actually begun to, whether the borrowing has occurred and whether we've begun to pay any debt service out of the CPA fund would be helpful to know.
It will be, because we did borrow and we will be paying debt service in this year.
Great, timely. And I'll make that as a motion, even though the chair doesn't make too many motions. And do we have a second on that report request as well?
I'll
Second.
second that. Yeah, Danny, you did that.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, any other comments or information requests? Member Tenzar.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just to be clear, our next few meetings are going to be presentations. Is that what you're telling us?
Correct.
Okay.
So the next as many as 3. I don't know how we defer to the city staff to kind of work with the applicants to schedule them all for us. And what we'll do is we will hear from a number of applicants each meeting. They will basically be given an opportunity to present their projects. We typically do these meetings in person. Some of them have PowerPoints or boards, and some are just oral presentations. There'll also be an opportunity for board members to ask clarifying questions, and the idea is to supplement the material that's in the written application to make sure the board members are well informed about the projects sufficiently so that ultimately when we get to deliberating about how to allocate the funds or how to recommend allocating the funds, we feel like we know what we need to know about each of the applications. But we do not vote, we don't vote on the applications at the meeting where we hear the presentation. We wait till have heard all of the applications to consider any of them.
Do we know right now what we have for a fund, available funds? Is that something that we know ahead of time before we start hearing all of these, or?
I don't believe we necessarily know the precise number right now. We will know it by January, and it's going to be probably, if it's consistent with how it has been the last few years, we're likely to have a little under $1 million to distribute. And so about $100,000 each has to go to the 3 required categories, and the remaining funds will be available to distribute as the board recommends across all 4 categories, including the recreation category that doesn't have a required minimum expenditure. Although I don't think we have any applications this year in that category.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Any hearing no other comments, I guess? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes. Motion to adjourn.
And do we have a second on that one?
Second.
That one never does, for lack of a second. All those in favor say aye, and we
Aye.
will see everybody at the next meeting in October.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
You all.
Thank you.